All right, so this is my newest general discussions recording, and this is going to be about the general elections in Jamaica that basically has popped off today, even though it was way after midnight. Today on Thursday, September the 3rd, this is where people are officially gone to vote for whichever party or whichever gang, and you know what I mean when I say that, is going to be in power, whether it's the JLP gets a second term or PMP is back in power after being in the political wilderness for a few years now. Now, my personal thing is that I have no horse in this fight though, because as far as I'm concerned, both parties are two sides of the same coin, right? Or better like to say, two heads on the same serpent. Right. So in other words, whichever party wins, Jamaica overall loses. But as I've said before, is that most Jamaicans on a subconscious level already know this. So it's just basically like shouting at a brick wall. I mean, nothing's going to go through. So my goal is not to really it's to tell people who to vote for or not to vote for. I mean, I've already made clear where I stand at. I do not support neither PNP or the JNP. Because most Jamaicans, unfortunately, in the minority, will come to that realization. But the purpose of this recording is going to be is what Jamaica needs to do. Because whoever wins, as I said, the whole country is going to lose. Because if JLP remains in power, and it's by indicating that the JLP have maintained that lead, expect that what you're going to see is that the interest of the general populace is not going to be put at the forefront. That the general interest is going to be towards lots of people in power, whether in the country and out the country. And I've already told you who those certain people are. Being, the current Prime Minister's party made clear that certain people with big pockets are the ones that they're going to be. This is primarily going to be getting his attention. All right. And like I said, and hence the reason, because these are the people that help to finance his party when they do elections. Because there, if you saw the article in Observer, a lot of these big business entities have stated or even revealed, not that it needs to be revealed, most people know, is that we're donating millions to either party so we can get whatever benefits we can when that party remains in power, or if the opposition comes back into power. And both parties have ties to a lot of these big pockets. That again, nothing new right there. But Jamaica, it needs to ideally, Jamaica needs to move from the two-party system. And how I say that is that more and more Jamaicans need to be more self-reliant. Yeah, people want to say, oh, there we need resources and so on. And yeah, that is a part of that though. But the thing is though, is that one, we have more resources than we have though, because a lot of people, even though Jamaica has a poverty issue, which is by design, of course, many people can pull forth and put resources into doing what's necessary. The problem is the ideology. All right, we Jamaicans and overall big the black diaspora, many of us do not have a connecting code and ideology. Many of us have bought into the Eurocentric system, where it's just about a small minority of people at the top, majority of people at the bottom in abject poverty or whatever. And Jamaica, and that is the doctrine that Jamaica, unfortunately, the ones at the bottom, they're used to this. We're used to being we're used to the fact that we're being subjugated. And as a Korean one done the culture of subjugation, which I'm gonna get onto doing as soon as possible. But Jamaica, we need to move from this though. Jamaica and needs to move for the part where we are expecting both parties to do more to actually have come to Jesus moment and do more than this bullshit fringe benefit gestures, which what best that's what both parties, regardless which person's in power, does. That yeah, we'll fix up some places, fix up some roads, fix up some neighborhoods. We'll even have some educational programs. I mean, yeah, well, all right, yeah, we'll donate some tablets to some schools, so forth. I mean, that's a lot of the what's it called cherry tricks. I mean, that's nothing new. Mean, but what we're not going to do is we're not going to a over economically level the playing field in Jamaica so that more native Jamaicans, I want to say black Jamaicans primarily, that we have more, that we are able to have afford a decent, honest living where food's in our plate. We have a roof over our head. We're living in nice neighborhoods. There's no crime. We're living in places where there's not where the health conditions are not a major problem, and we're living in an issue where a place where moral accountability is steadily reinforced. We're not going to go towards it. I mean, like, we're not going to actually overall do anything about it. I mean, we'll just do some cherry tricks just to shut you dumb idiots up. And as I've said before, I'm sure that both the JLP and the PNP are in there. Many of these people who are friends, family members, are basically having these conversations at their cocktail parties or whatever, and they're saying, okay, okay, which one of our voting base have the dumbest people? All right, because we keep showing and showing that we just care more about remain getting into staying in Gordon House rather than really improving the infrastructure of the country. I mean, how much of these do people going to get that? And me, they hope they don't, cause I mean, like, that's going to defeat the purpose. But a lot of them have this debate about who has the most global set of supporters, cause. And that is what the real problem is, though, is that Jamaica, we need to move from that die-hard tribalistic mindset, because what's demonstrated, unfortunately, is that when their prime minister said call elections during the pandemic, and bear in mind prior to this that we were doing actually quite well with the handling epidemic. I mean, we weren't like out of control like America or Brazil or these other places, but then said to have these, then people unfortunately who had the mindset of 10-year-olds said, okay, we're going to just get buck wild and we're just going to drop all the care and caution, and this is what's going to happen. And yeah, and now we're over in the thousands now, cause it's had the stupid decision to even call the election during the time when the pandemic was still going on. Like, we didn't think to wait this out. This is what we're having. And when you see a lot of these diehard crowds in the PNP and the GLP, a lot of them are congregating like bees in a hive on honey. And you see both the prime minister and the opposition. All of these people, see all of their diehard sheep are violating safety codes. And unfortunately, and this is more indication on these diehards, these supporters, like apparently just having this just that the particulars having this elections is more important than your safety, or more important than life and death, that you're willing to risk being sick over a disease that has no known cure as of yet, just for party colors. And yeah, these politicians don't get any escape blame for it, because, and so they should, because they know that the mindset of a lot of supporters. I mean, they benefit from having supporters that are so gullible and so sheepish. But the thing is that you're willing to risk your lives for people in both parties, showing time and time that they don't care. But again, you're willing to even increase the risk, the numbers of infections, and for what? Because you notice, so well, apart from a few MPs like DK Duncan and a few others who are foolish enough to also not exercise common sense. I mean, again? That's just, that mindset has to go. Jamaica needs to go and be moving in the direction where we do not rely on these politicians as much. We can't keep having these neighborhoods that are reminiscent of the dark ages in Europe, which were basically shitholes. And then we keep complaining that these MPs who keep voting to poor don't do anything. Yeah, that defeats the purpose. And yeah, and more Jamaicans who have the right mindset, who have the right connections, resources, all right, and the ones that really want to do what's best. All of us need to or continue to do it if we're not doing it already. Move towards be more economic, more independent of these so-called leaders. And this is why I didn't really do any recordings on the elections, which kicked off at near the end of August up to now. Because at the point I'm saying I have both parties are doing the second verse same as the first. I mean, what? Why would I really have any investment in voting for either party? Because you have a prime minister who has shown where his true allegiances lie, and it's not with the voters. And he's even arrogant and indifferent enough to call election at the time that when there's a pandemic is still going on. And no doubt he was getting advice from a lot of these interest groups and these people that big pockets. Yeah, I can guarantee you, they're the ones that put him up to this idea, because they want, if Holness wins again, which more than likely will happen, these big businesses will continue to benefit because he's going to be looking out for their best interests before the whole country. But then again, most of you can't really tell a lot to the supporters in that though. And yeah, we have a weak opposition in Peter Phillips too, because I've said what I've had about Peter Phillips, especially the Peter Bunting thing. And yeah, the PNP, like I said, they're proving that they're no different on the times. I mean, they're not as blatant with their arrogance as the Green Party, as I like to call them at times. They're also, yeah, they're not angels with halos either. So it's a distinction without a difference. We're voting for two parties whose main interest is maintaining that hierarchy. All that basic sorry, not to use my word. Just like the same, and the good parallels are the Democrats and Republicans. Same difference. Both parties have racists and bigots in them, and both of them are very anti-black. I mean, Republicans are more anti-black than more blatant with their anti-black rhetoric. But end of the day is like you're voting for two parties that are on the same team. And remember, Democrats and Republicans, a lot of them may have their different rattle sabers in public. Many of them have their differences. Many of these people are on the same page in many regards. Behind closed doors, much like the PNP and the GLP, a lot of these people are friends. All right, these are family members. Because remember, Trump, the orange one, he was a Democrat prior to being a Republican, and his racism was well known for those who actually did delve deep into what kind of insidious character he is. And again, and for those who know about Joe Biden, you know that he's basically a piece of work just like Trump himself. And I mean, look who he has as a running mate, another person who was a piece of work herself in Kamala Harris. All right, so the point I'm trying to make is that I'm going to try and post this before we go to the polls, like when the sun comes up, because I'm sure the diehard people are going to flocking to vote in these polls, and as a result, mean like most of them I predict will violate the safety procedures, and I can expect that after today, that numbers of infections are going to rise because many people said that party colors are more important than their safety or logical progression. And the thing I've always said about Jamaica is that it's not about JLP and PNP. It's more about which party is going to crack the whip on their backs, all right? Because we're just not looking for any leaders per se to actually bring the country to a more better and more progressive state of being. We're looking for which party is going to be the overseers on whichever plantation. And they also understand what they symbolize. They symbolize Bakra Maso, okay? Yeah, maybe men, and sad thing is that many of them may have black skin like the people oppressing, but I think there's a saying that goes that in order for our oppressive system to maintain to keep victimizing those oppressed, it has to get those same people who are victims to be complicit in that oppression of themselves. Yeah, and Sadly, Jamaica, like a lot of other places in diaspora, we have people who are just complicit in their own own oppression, and because we think of ourselves as being anything other than being black, and that's never worked out for us in the long run. But again, we don't learn. All right, so logically, as I've said, Jamaica, we should, regardless of who wins. Again, I'm not. I honestly don't care who actually. I wouldn't say I don't care, but I'm. At the end of the day, is that I'd prefer a better choice than both these parties. I honestly believe that there's a bit should be better choices, but Jamaicans. I'm talking to the critical to Jamaicans who have sense, who know better, that who are not cowards, who have a backbone, and who can get shit done. This is for you. We should be doing working towards making sure Jamaica moves beyond the two party system. That is what my message is here. All right, yeah, I mean, majority of people who are going to hear this message are going to cuss, kick and rail, find some petty nonsense to bitch about just to undermine this message. Yeah, because you'll get idiots like that. I mean, that's fine, but to those who are just basically going to ignore it, and majority of them unfortunately are, I have nothing for you with this message. I mean, I don't, when I'm actually chastising you for having that, maintaining that diehard culture, all right, it's a message, is done as a labor of love, not really because that I have nothing but malice and scorn, but sometimes when you call or see bullshit happening, yeah, you can't really mince words, and Jamaicans were been on too much bullshit for many years, and if more people needs to really needs to put their foot down and call it bullshit, and because the funny thing is that we'll uphold those who mean us no well, like the politicians, the criminals who will many of us actually support and glorify and romanticize, but any person who actually does mean well, they're weak, they're soft, they're boring. And as I said with Marcus Garvey on August 17th, when these morons in both the supporters in both parties were more concerned with holding with wearing the party colors than rather than acknowledging the man that has done so much for Jamaica and the black diaspora more than these politicians. Yeah, if we're willing, if most of us are willing to either forget or just don't care about someone like Marcus Garvey on his birthday, yeah, it shows you that yeah, we many of us are not going to make it. All right, many of us want to stay on that treadmill like these proverbial hamsters, and many of us want to be like those rats the Pied Piper led to their drone to their deaths in that wharf when he played his magical whistle to get them to follow him. Many of us want to be like those, be in that position where just get led, or even the better term to use is like we want to be the blind being led by the other blind, where we'll fall into that same pit. I mean, and yeah, those kind of people, this message is going to be lost in them, and whichever party wins, we're going to get. They're going to be more concerned about okay, which party is going to continue to shortchange, disenfranchise, and hoodwink us. I mean, like we'll just because we're just so used to it, because that's what we should we even if it doesn't work out to our collective benefit. I mean, as long as someone's cracking that whip over us, I mean, that's more important than our safety and survival. And yeah, this mess is going to be completely lost, and that's fine. I mean, because the funny thing I've said this before, if Garvey were to come back and say something similar, or even yeah, see how quickly Garvey gets told to shut up and mind his business, or even Christ. I mean, the country that Jamaicans claim that we're Christians. If Jesus Christ were to come back and say, what you're doing, okay, first of all, I'm not happy that you have all these churches in my name, but you're not living according to my word and deed with the type of society that you're allowing to exist. Yeah, and especially with the type of people that you choose to elevate and glorify. I mean, like with Barabbas. And you know what happened when that crowd chose Barabbas over Jesus. I mean, God's wrath came down. I mean, Christ were to come back and say all these things, yeah, so quickly he gets fought down too. I mean, they'll be telling Christ that, yo, if you sit down and say nothing, all right. That's what anybody, regardless of who they are, whether it's regardless what kind of moral value this person has, that person will not be appreciated. And again, not to sound like a broken record, this is not meant to say, okay, we're Jamaican, we're doomed, that there's a lost cause. I honestly believe that some of us are going to get this. This is what I do this for. Many of us are not going to get this, and so on, unfortunately. But then again, but like I said, this is a labor of love for Jamaica. But I guess to say that Jamaica, we need regardless of who wins tomorrow. I don't. It's this beyond me. We should be looking at this point where we say, let's move beyond that two-party system. To the few people out there who get this and are willing to do shit to move in that direction, that means that my message has found its target audience. So this is for State of Jamaica and the Caribbean. Check out my YouTube pages, Miles Goodson Farron and Miles J Productions, and with thoughts, Miles. Okay.